The night of December 23rd, St. Jude's Children's Hospital was quieter than it had ever been. Snow fell in thick, silent curtains outside the windows of Ward 7B, muffling even the usual beeps and cries. Inside room 712, the machines around 8-year-old Noah Whitaker were singing their final, slowing song. Noah had been fighting leukemia for 4 years, longer than most children his size could endure. Tonight his small body had finally surrendered. The oncologist, Drive, Evelyn Hart, one of the best in the country, had just signed the papers to withdraw life support. She stood at the foot of the bed, tears sliding down her cheeks without permission, and whispered to Noah's exhausted parents, "It's time to let him go." Noah's mother, Claire, collapsed against her husband Daniel. Both of them were hollow-eyed from months of sleeping in plastic chairs. They nodded, unable to speak. The nurses began switching off monitors one by one. The room dimmed. The snow kept falling. That was when the door opened a crack, and a tiny barefoot girl in a threadbare pink nightgown slipped inside. No one knew her name. Everyone simply called her, the Flower Girl. She was perhaps 6 or 7 years old, skin the color of warm cinnamon, hair a wild cloud of black curls tied with pieces of red string. She had arrived at St. Jude's 3 weeks earlier with nothing but the nightgown on her back and a paper tag around her wrist that read, Leora, age approximately 6, found alone at bus station. No parents, no records, no surname. She spoke very little English, and what she did speak carried the soft music of a language no one could place. The nurses had grown to love her instantly. She moved through the cancer ward like a small quiet angel, pushing toy trucks for the toddlers, braiding the older girls' hair, singing wordless lullabies that made even the angriest teenagers fall asleep. She never asked for anything. She simply gave. And every single night, no matter how many doors were locked, Leora appeared in the rooms of children who were slipping away. She would climb into their beds, place her palm on their foreheads, and hum. The children always slept more peacefully after she left. Some of them woke up the next morning better. Most did not wake up at all, but they left with smiles. The staff had long stopped trying to keep her out. They pretended not to notice her bare feet in the corridors at 3 a.m. They pretended not to see the fresh daisies that appeared on pillows after she passed. They told themselves it was harmless. Tonight Leora stood in the doorway of room 712, snowlight behind her making a halo around her curls. In her hand she carried one wilted dandelion she had somehow found in the hospital courtyard days ago and kept alive by breathing on it every hour. Claire saw her first. "Sweetheart, you shouldn't be here right now," she managed, voice breaking. Leora did not answer with words. She only walked forward on silent feet until she stood beside Noah's bed. The boy was almost translucent. His lips were blue. The heart monitor showed a line that barely rose and fell. "Doctor." Hart moved to intercept her. "Leora, honey, come with me." But Leora looked up at the doctor with huge, ancient eyes the color of a midnight sea, and Dr. Hart stopped as though an invisible hand had pressed against her chest. Something in those eyes was older than the hospital, older than medicine itself. Leora climbed onto the bed without effort. She knelt beside Noah, placed the wilted dandelion on his pillow, and studied his face the way a gardener studies a dying rose. Then, very gently, she leaned forward and touched the tip of his nose with one small finger. Boop. Just like that. A playful, tender boop, the kind a sister gives a sleeping brother to wake him for cartoons on Saturday morning. For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. The room held its breath. Then Noah's chest rose, high, sudden, greedy. The monitor screamed. Heart rate 40, 65, 98, 124. Oxygen saturation jumped from 42% to 89% in the space of a heartbeat. His blue lips flushed pink. His eyelids fluttered. Claire screamed. Daniel fell to his knees. "Doctor." Hart stumbled backward into the crash cart, knocking it over. Noah opened his eyes, really opened them, and looked straight at Leora. And he smiled the way he used to smile before leukemia, before needles and bone marrow taps and nights of pain so fierce he bit his teddy bear in half. "Hey, Tiny," he whispered, voice hoarse from disuse but unmistakably alive. "Your finger's cold." Leora giggled, a sound like silver bells in summer, and booped his nose again. The entire ward exploded. Nurses flooded the room. Alarms were shrieking in every direction. Doctors came running from every floor. Within minutes the corridor outside 712 was jammed with white coats and stunned faces. But the miracle didn't stop at Noah. As the crowd pressed in, Leora slipped off the bed, took the wilted dandelion, and began walking through the ward barefoot, touching noses. Boop. A 4-year-old boy named Jonas, in hospice for inoperable brain tumor, sat up and asked for ice cream. Boop. 14-year-old Amira, whose heart had stopped twice that evening, opened her eyes and said, "I smelled roses." Boop. A premature baby in NICU whom the machines had kept alive for 87 days pulled out her breathing tube herself and cried with strong, furious lungs. Boop. 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 One by one, the untouchable children, the ones with days or hours left, woke up laughing, asking for their mothers, demanding toys, pulling out IV lines like they were pieces of string. By 4 a.m. every single child on the oncology floor was awake, alert, hungry, and, according to the blood tests rushed to the lab, showing impossible counts. White cells normal. Tumor markers 0. Inflammation gone. The hospital descended into beautiful chaos. Parents sobbed in corridors. Nurses hugged each other and cried. News helicopters circled overhead, unable to land because of the snow but filming everything through the windows. In the middle of it all walked Leora, barefoot, touching noses, leaving tiny white daisies that had not existed an hour earlier on every pillow after pillow. At 5:17 a.m. Dr. Hart finally cornered her in the playroom. The little girl was sitting cross-legged on the floor surrounded by 24 children who should have been too weak to stand, all of them braiding her wild curls with pipe cleaners and laughter. "Leora," the doctor whispered, kneeling, "what are you?" Leora tilted her head, placed her palm against Hart's cheek, and for the first time spoke in perfect, heartbreaking English. "I am the yes when everyone else says no," she said softly. "I am the breath after the last one. I am what love looks like when it decides to wear skin for a night." Then she kissed the doctor's forehead, stood up, and walked to the window. Outside, the snow had stopped. The sky was turning the delicate pink of dawn. Leora pressed her hand to the glass. Where her palm touched, the frost melted into the shape of a perfect dandelion. She turned back once, looked at all the children, healthy, glowing, alive, and gave them the biggest, brightest smile the world has ever seen. "Thank you for letting me play," she said. And then she stepped forward, right through the glass as though it were made of mist, and vanished into the sunrise. They searched the entire hospital. They checked every camera. The footage showed her walking to the window, placing her hand on the glass, and simply not existing on the very next frame. The only thing left behind was a single white dandelion on the playroom rug. It has never wilted. 17 years later it still grows there, rooted in carpet, blooming impossibly every single morning. Noah Whitaker is 25 now. He became a pediatric oncologist. On the door of his office at St. Jude's hangs a small framed photograph, a little girl in a pink touching the nose of a bald, smiling boy who was supposed to die that Christmas Eve. Underneath, in Noah's handwriting, are the words, "She booped my nose and taught me that sometimes the smallest touch contains the whole entire yes of God." Every year on December 23 the children of Ward 7B, new generations now, wake to find fresh daisies on their pillows and, if they are very quiet, they can hear distant silver bell laughter and the softest boop on the nose while they sleep. And every year, without fail, at least one child who was not supposed to see Christmas morning opens their eyes and asks for hot chocolate. Because some miracles are not loud. Some miracles wear ragged pink nightgowns, speak with accents of heaven, and only need 6 years and one wilted dandelion to turn the whole world gentle again. They called her Leora. It means, "I have light." And for one blessed night, she gave it away freely, nose by nose, heart by heart, until the entire hospital shone like a new star. Thank you for watching this story till the end. Sparkles. If it touched your heart, please support us. Thumbs up, give it a like. Speech balloon, share your thoughts in the comments. Bell, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Your support helps us create more stories that inspire and make you believe in miracles. Your participation means a lot to us.